So I took a little break to get my rubric. I know I won't have this rubric on the Regents, but it's helpful for right now. But I know that like eventually I'm gonna have to memorize what has to go in this paragraph. But I'm gonna check myself in the meantime. So I have a topic sentence that connects a literary element, got it, to an effect. So like raises the stakes. So this should be a yes. Next it says include a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the text. So like the text, what's it called? Friends is about two men at war who like have to decide whether to keep a promise. Cool. That was pretty good. Yes. Okay. So here come the quotes. So I'm choosing the quotes from Raising the Stakes based on, I'm going to choose from like one of these things that I highlighted. So, I think the first time the stakes were raised is when the leg gets exploded off. So like, I'm going to start there. In the text, it says, and then in October, Lee Strunk stepped on a rigged mortar round. It took off his right leg at the knee. So maybe I'll say something like this conflict raises the stakes because if this conflict raises the stakes because if this I'm trying to connect it back to this promise that if like one of the guys ends up in a wheelchair, the other guy would okay, actually, so that's what I'm gonna say. This raises the stakes because if Lee ends up in a wheelchair, then who's the other guy? Dave has to follow through on the promise, on the crazy promise to kill him. Okay, good. I think that's done. I think I'm good. Let me keep going. So the text also says, let's see, where does the stakes raise again? Jesus man, don't kill me. That's good. Jesus man, don't kill me. I'm really glad I made this note because I was like, oh, he's feeling really guilty and conflicted. And I was like, okay, yeah, the stakes are being raised again. Jesus man, don't kill me. The text also says, Jesus man, don't... Okay, actually, instead of saying the text also says, I'm going to say like, the text also says, Jesus man... Lee... What's his name? Lee also says to Dave, Jesus man, don't kill me. This... I need to explain this a little more. So I'm going to say like this quote shows that Lee is starting to rethink the plan because he's scared. This raises the stakes because if Dave decides to keep the promise and Lee doesn't want to, this raises the stakes because David tries to keep the promise and Lee doesn't want to. Like, Dave would have to live with that. Forever. I think that's pretty much it. Let me look. So I include 2 quotes from the text. I did that. Both quotes are examples of the chosen literary element. Yes, they're both examples of conflict, and I explain how it connects to the effect. So what I'm going to do is I always do a moment. I take a moment to like look at my topic sentence and review what I wrote one more time. The author uses conflict to raise the stakes. I'm trying to prove 2 things at once: conflict and raising the stakes. So after every quote, I want to make sure I say both of those 2 words. So the text, friends, is about 2 men at war who have to decide whether to keep a promise. In the text it says, and then in October, Lee Strong stepped on a rigged mortar round and took off his right leg at the knee. This conflict raises the stakes because if Lee ends up in a wheelchair, then Dave has to follow through on the crazy promise to kill him. And then I have my second quote. Lee also says to Dave, "Jesus, man, don't kill me." This quote shows that Lee is starting to rethink the plan because he's scared that, ooh, I'm missing something. This raises the stakes because, oh, yes, I'm missing something. Because if Dave decides to keep the promise and Lee doesn't want Dave, and Lee doesn't want Dave, what? If Dave decides to keep the promise and Lee doesn't want to, Dave would have to live with that forever. So I'm missing the word conflict. So I'm actually really glad that I did this check. I started to write it here and then I changed my mind, and so it never happened. This quote shows at least starting to rethink the plan because he's scared. This will be easy. This conflict raises the stakes because if Dave decides to keep the promise and Lee doesn't want to, Dave would have to live with that forever. Therefore, the author uses conflict to raise the stakes. Yes, I'm done. Okay.